Hi, everyone. I'm Sandra Ingerman, and welcome to the Shamans Cave, to the start of season 4, which we're so excited about.
And I'm Renee Baribeau. And can you believe 4 years? We're heading into 4 years. And that means for us, we've been sitting here having these wonderful conversations before, during, and after, and sharing with you. And when I look to the feeds, and I've been reading all of your comments, and I'm the one who responds on YouTube, which, by the way, we haven't hit our 11,000 yet. So make sure you hit subscribe. You don't get an email, you just like us on YouTube, and it brings us up further in the rankings. So even if you're listening on Buzzsprout or iTunes, go over to YouTube and just really hit subscribe. So we hit 11,000 for our 4th year. But what I'm most moved by when I read your comments and the comments that I saw during the I AM Symposium is how many of you listen to this weekly, that this is your go-to in the car, this is your go-to for your ceremony, this is for your go-to, and it's kind of like the lifeline, out in the ocean when times are really struggling, that all those comments keep telling us about how much you appreciate the work that Sandra and I are doing together on this show.
Yeah, we're getting, I read the emails, and we're getting a bunch of emails after each show, just with huge gratitude and appreciation. And there are some questions that come up on the email about a past show. And I just want to make sure everybody knows that all 4 years, or the 3 years of our episodes, are on shamanstv.com. And if you click on episodes, you can go back and see the titles of all the different episodes. So that's something that might be helpful for others, because the question comes up on email all the time. So
And this might be a year that I might reorganize the videos, and so that they're, categorize them and tag them a little bit, because that whole system has improved since we started this. And so it may be something that I'm going to set aside for later this spring to do, so that when you're searching, because they'll say like, oh, where's the show on depression, or where's the show on, this, then you could just search and get 5 or 6 shows that have that in there. So that's one of my goals for season 4, is to really get our content organized.
yeah, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Renee.
You heard it here first.
So I thought that with starting off of season 4, Renee just came out of the I AM Symposium. And one of the things that Renee did, which is unusual for the general shamanic community out there to do, is Renee created this massive community that made a commitment to light a candle, light a fire, light something to hold space during the I AM Symposium, but not just during the I AM Symposium, but during the time of moving from the winter solstice into the new year. And I was thinking about how Renee created this incredibly long shamanic ceremony, and how in the West we don't do that anymore. We just don't. And I've been having healing work, and I teach healing. I've been teaching healing for 40 years to a Western community. And no matter how much I try to teach my students that a one-time session is not enough. So, like in my soul retrieval workshops, I not only teach soul retrieval, but I teach about work that needs to be done every day. So we spend a lot of time on what kind of ceremonies would be good for a client to do after a soul retrieval to really integrate the work. And recently I had two native shamans do some work for me, and actually they still are, and their ceremonies have been going on for weeks, absolute weeks. And I'm finally, for the first time, seeing a major result from all the people doing shamanic work for me who just one time said a prayer, which of course I love and appreciate. But the difference of somebody who committed over a month of working every day on my behalf, and the results are just incredible. And so, what are we missing by keeping this Western view, like allopathic medicine, that you take a pill and everything is over, and so we do one ceremony and your life is changed forever and the world is changed forever? That's not how things work traditionally, and I don't know how well they're working right now. So I was just really impressed with Renee with what you did for the community and how you really did work in an old way.
Mm. Yeah, it is a lot of work, and it's a lot of commitment. And one of the things, I've done the fire tending part of it now for about 6 years. But what I noticed this year was some real subtle differences and some real dramatic differences. We had about 2,400 people sign up. And at the end, we were sent over 180 altars, which means to me that there were 180 people and people have been writing me since and said, no, I didn't send you my altar, but I was doing it. So we had a really concentrated of about 200 people or more who really kept a devotional practice for 2 weeks of keeping the light burning, whether it was a battery operated, a salt light. Some people did their purple flames, but that's intentional. And one of the things that I noticed this year, there's a few things, was that with the shortage of things in the world, of like getting supplies and stuff like that, it's really easy to light a novena candle that's going to burn for 3 days. But when the novena candles aren't available, how do you keep the light going? And so it would be like, there would be days when it would be like, okay, the light's going, phew, the light's burning. And then there'd be days where like all of a sudden one day it got so heavy that I went on the wall and said, I need everyone to build a fire. I mean, I went out in the rain and built a fire because, well, actually it wasn't raining. There was a gap in the day and I built a fire and the rain ended up putting the fire out eventually. But that I thought to myself, like, wow, there's so much density, so much heaviness, that our little candles, as well intended as they aren't enough. That next year we need people who are committed to actually, maybe people would say, all right, I'll keep this fire going here for 24 hours. And then this next person saying, that we're at a time period that, and I think it was Flor de Mayo who once told me that there'll become in the Mayan traditions and prophecies that there'll become a time when it could go dark for 4 days, that you need to know where your fire was. Now, in my Western thinking, I'm thinking, okay, well, the world's going to fall off its axis and it's going to go dark for 4 days. But I realized during this this is the time they're talking about. 4 days could be 4 years or 400 years. We don't know, but there's a darkness that's permeating and we need a lot of light. And so I don't want to go on, but there was just days where it was really a nice flow, and that there was days that 2 salt baths were needed. One of the things that I really noticed is the biggest commitment of saying I'm going to do something and then following through and being spiritually awake enough to be able to follow through. Because there's some people who said, oh yeah, this year I just didn't feel like it. Or this year I got one candle going and, oh, I sent you a picture, but it didn't get in. Well, did you, keep one candle, or did you keep, maybe this is spirit giving you a wake up call that they wanted you to have a little more commitment if we missed your, and that's not to say that we feel bad when we miss somebody's altar, sure, but that it's the level of commitment that you show up for in your own life.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that was a main part of shamanism, was you had to commit, the whole community had to commit to ceremonial work for the communities to survive, because it was really seen that the ceremonial work that was done restored balance, whether we were talking about something going on with somebody's health or something going on with the climate, where a particular indigenous culture was living. Ceremony was used to survive and to thrive, to find food, to heal. And it was done for such a long time. Yes, there were ceremonies that were short, especially when there was a particular star that was showing, that showed particular transit that was happening, that showed a ceremony needed to be done at 2 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, and that this was really important to do. But we've lost so much of the magic of the old traditions because, as Renee's saying, it's so hard to find people who commit. We listen to online courses while we're driving, and people write on Facebook pages, they listen to my courses while they're doing dinner. And I'm leading really deep ceremony courses. So it's like, well, what did we just do? And why did I just take this time out of my life? And of course, what keeps me in is, like Renee is saying, there are people who are showing up who are just extraordinary shamans right now to be, and we really need them on the planet, and so that keeps us going. But you can't help to wonder how things would look different if people really committed to a devotional practice and a ceremonial way of life. How things would be different right now. You can't help but think about that, and the missed opportunities that we might be having because we're not willing to commit.
I agree. I have the 10-month apprenticeship program starts in February, and the people who are committed are committed. They're like showing up and they're like, wow, this community is a really wonderful aspect of this. And look what the community blossomed. And, and then you hear from the other people, well, I just think that that's too long to commit for, or, that I've got 10 other classes that I want to take during that time. Instead of like, do you know how much you could learn about yourself when you commit to yourself for 10 months? Like Sandra was saying, so what happened for you after the end of the I AM Symposium? I said, well, I had this major dream and this major initiation the other night where I guess I might have been gifted a new bone, where I think I lost a bone, or I don't know. I was rearranged. My head was rearranged. A bone was taken out of my head. Now, what a bone was doing in my head, I'm not quite sure of yet, and I'm sure I'll find out. But what it had sent me to was, after the IM, I really had to rest for 2 weeks. Literally, I had to be resting. But while I was resting, all of a sudden, this idea of purging came up. Like last night, I sold a set of Syracuse china that I'd been carrying since my friend Harry the Rat died 35 years ago. And it's just like, well, what are you carrying for 35 years? Like, we think we do so much work, and yet we go look in the storage unit, and there's still 35 years worth of pictures and notebooks and journals. It's like, have you ever gone back to look to a journal that you wrote when you were in the 80s? Like,
I know. Yeah. I actually did keep my very first journal that had some of my very beginning journeys. Not that I'm ever going to read it, but I have gotten rid of all my journals. And what Renee, what you're saying is basically what's happening for so many people right now. People are just purging. People want smaller living places. People who are older are getting rid of so much stuff. It's unbelievable. People, my younger students who haven't had the time to collect so much junk as we have, they're moving into smaller, simpler places to live. They want small places. They want very simple. And so they've shared that with me. And so it seems like in this time of dismemberment, which is perfect, where we're being asked to let go of our old identity, a lot of our old identity is held in the things that we have. And that's why one of the things I teach in my workshops is every time you make a change in life, change your altar, because you want your things to reflect back to you who you are now, not who you were then, but who you are now. So it's before, we don't know when the rebirth comes. We're still in the dissolution phase.
the
But
nose.
yeah, part of the dissolution is getting rid of our old hurts, our old memories that are tying us down to an old dimension of life and an old way of thinking that doesn't reflect the new evolution that we say that we're going for. And physically, we're clearing out. So it's all body, mind, and spirit is all preparing for something new. And to prepare for something new, you have to let go of some of the old.
And that's one of the things that I love most about the Wind Clan altar for the year is that on Saturday we're making our prayer flags. And you have 12 flags, you pull a wind for each, and then you hang it outside and you let the wind inform you for that month. And it just seems like so transient and so, so movable, like the wind is anyway. And yet, that you're held for the whole year by the strand of prayer flags and these winds that actually choose you when you pull them out of the wind sack to work with. And it's just such a beautiful process that I'm really looking forward to finding out what winds want to work with me for the year as a after the dismemberment, because this year was certainly a dismemberment, I must say.
Yeah, it has been for, well, everybody. It has been for the world. But as Renee and I talk privately before, we chat a lot before we do. It's like it doesn't feel like the dismemberment is ending anytime soon, although people want it to. It's kind of like what I was saying around ceremonies, that ceremonies have their own timing and they can be very long and some of them can be very tedious. But they're really important, and they're important for healing, and they're important for growth. And the dismemberment process that we're in, we called in as a human race. We called it in because change needed to happen. And I don't think any of you listening would disagree that something has to change in the way that human beings live with each other and live with nature and what we're doing to the earth. So, did everybody get the message? Did people's authentic identity come out? Did people let go of their old beliefs, or people a new being with a new sense of morals and ethics and a new way of living? Do we have enough of the people on the planet that made those changes so that the rememberment can start to happen?
Yeah, and I think we both agree that this dismemberment process could be 400 years. Because we like to think we're so important in this moment, but we're really not. And if we're in this dismemberment phase, I think just like grief has its phases, we're in the phases of dismemberment that are, like year one, it was like, okay, well, we can handle this. Well, year two, okay, it looks like we're going to get to come out again. And now year three, it's like, oh no, there's more dismemberment happening. It's like you get a reprieve and more, but it's going to be a reprieve and then more. I mean, because we're not going back. Whatever's going on here is part of the next evolution of our humanity. And, we have to change. And I was doing some research for my new book, and it was talking about that 17,000 years ago, the East and the West had a split. In the East, they believed in, and this is where most of the indigenous tribes went, they believed that community was first. And in the West, we believe that I'm first. And I could be my family and I could be these other people. But so that there's this whole part of the world living with the community first, and this other more selfish side of the world thinking about what's in it for me. And the what's in it for me side is taking the world down. We have to find our way back to our central hearth, which is community.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote in my January transmutation news. I gotten this really beautiful vision that night. I oftentimes, and I actually led an exercise on the shaman's cave of what's your passion? Why did you come here? And in the opening invocation, I always talk about how we were just a little spark of light looking down at this great planet Earth, and it had sights and smells and textures and so much beauty, because the spirits, when you're a spirit, you don't have senses, so you don't get to experience anything like that. And I always make a joke that the biggest thing that attracted people here was chocolate. But I had this vision the other night that the reason spirits incarnate is to feel each other's heartbeat.
Oh, that's nice.
It was such a beautiful vision, and I just wrote about it, I think, in my January transmutation news. And it's true, it's not about me. It's about the connection, and we came here for that connection. I mean, all spiritual traditions say that we came here to learn about love, but there's a difference when you actually get that kinesthetic feeling of touching another's heartbeat, which a spirit will never have the opportunity to do. Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. So let us be able to touch your heartbeat this year as we move into season 4 with the Shaman's Cave, and stay here with us and join in with our circle and get involved. Get involved where you can really get involved. And it may not be my Windwork Apprentice course, but I've always heard that in the Western world, it's like when you don't like what I'm teaching, you go find another teacher instead of finding your own teacher within to find out, what that projection is. And so if it's not me and it's not Sandra, pick a teacher and stick with that teacher for a few years and see what you could really, really deepen and learn about yourself.
Yeah, I think it's really important to commit, because there's too much shopping going on. We're shopping for who has the best courses. And like I used to teach the tarot and be a tarot reader, and I made a decision to stick with one deck for my whole entire life, because so many tarot readers use like 10 different decks and let their clients pick them. And I decided there's so many mysteries in the tarot that unless I stuck with this one deck and really worked with this one deck for a lifetime, I was going to miss the true mysteries, because I was too busy jumping around to trying to find other mysteries. So I just Renee, what you're saying is really true. You know, people just have to, nobody has more powerful work. Nobody has more powerful work than another, because the work on the planet is about your presence. And so it's finding the spiritual path and the teacher who helps you develop yourself into a spiritual being who can really serve the planet and yourself and your community right now. So it's really important to stop shopping around and find something to commit to, because it'll be like a boat that's going to take you down some of the real turbulent waters and hold you. Where if you're just flying from different things on your own, you're going to get caught up in a lot of different wind currents.
Exactly. I like the one you taught us a couple of, I think it was 3 years ago, where you told us to go out and find a tree and really get to, if none of you are like, oh, I can't afford a program and I can't afford a no. Sandra gave us a couple of years ago, go out and meet a tree and go back and visit that tree every single day this year. And that could be your teacher, right? Is that what you told us? That's what I heard.
No, I did. And actually, there are shamanic cultures where your tree teaches you how to be a shaman. There are shamans who were only taught by trees. That's who taught them their practice, and that's well known. It's not done that much anymore right now, but that was a real way of learning. The practice of shamanism was just by sitting with a tree. So
that reminds me, I'm going to visit my tree today, because since I've been here in the desert, I've been really resting. So today I'm going to go visit my tree. And I hope all of you, if you've been listening for 3 years, would have your tree that you could go visit and let us know how your tree's doing. You know, we'd like to hear from you. So keep us informed.
Yeah.
And follow us at Shaman's Cave on Facebook. And if you're a regular poster on the Shaman's Cave, would you please keep it to shamanism? We have to reject a lot of posts lately that everyone wants to come and sell all their wares, but we really want to hear about your shamanic stories more. So,
yeah, the Facebook page. I'm off social media, but the Facebook pages have a real power to inspire if we keep a commitment and we stay on the focus of the material in the shaman's cave and the changes that are happening for you, and your intuitive hits about what we're sharing. And if we do that, then we become a strong community instead of just posts that most people don't read or get anything out of. But we really, really appreciate the level of love that we're receiving. And please subscribe to YouTube. What I've been sharing on my Transmutation News is Renee and I have been teaching for a long time. And it really just helps us, gives us more support with YouTube if we have more subscribers. So that's a favor that we ask of you. And I send blessings to you for a beautiful day or night. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.